she's shaking up how kids experience food and started her own company, Flavor Lab, teaching cooking through games, hands-on classes, and fun activities. She's bringing India's first food education curriculum to schools in Hyderabad and and Bangalore, helping kids build a healthy and playful system. So, shall we begin, guys?
Hello? Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that introduction. And thanks for everyone for being here. Perfect. So as it was mentioned in the introduction, Jungshi here is doing us all a really big favor, I think, by bringing food from his culture and cuisine to Hyderabad that we wouldn't have otherwise experienced. So thank you for doing that, and thanks for being here. But I want to start by going way back. I want to first understand your childhood. Tell us where you grew up and what role did food and cooking play in your childhood?
Hi guys, my name is Jungshi and I am from Kohima, Nagaland. And I moved to Hyderabad about 4 years ago. But that's a story for a little bit on. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my childhood and what brought me here and how we ended up here today. So basically, I grew up with my grandmother, and my aunt was also, a huge caregiver in my life. And ever since we're kids, my aunt did not know how to cook. She did not know how to cook, but she wanted to eat good food. And she would make such a ruckus at home, complaining about, what's being cooked at home and how it tastes so bad. Or sometimes like comparing food with like the neighbors and all of that. And that way, I think I just learned to cook for her and also for myself. And another incident is during lunch breaks in school. That was my first introduction to the different kinds of Naga food that we have. Like I belong to the Ao community, Ao tribe, and our food is, even though it's similar, it's totally different. It varies according to the ingredients that we use and all of that. So that way, food that other tribes were having, we weren't having at home. And school lunches were one of my first introductions to that. I would eat, for example, akuni. That's a fermented soya bean dish. It's really smelly when you cook it, but it's really yummy as well. And so yeah, that was akuni was something I tried in someone else's lunch. We used to make fun of that person for bringing that, but as I sit here, I'm really grateful that I was introduced to the different kinds of Naga food in school. And
No, that's great. I wanted to understand what role food and cooking played in your childhood, and you shared how your aunt didn't know how to cook, and that sort of forced you into
yeah,
cooking.
yeah. So she kind of forced me to learn how to cook the many dishes that I wanted to eat and she wanted to eat. And during COVID, she left home. She had to be transferred for work, and it was just me and my grandmother. And she was 90 something years old. She was cranky. She was old. She couldn't do so much. So I had to, take up the role of the caregiver, and so yeah, that what all the things that I cook in the supper club right now are food, like are dishes that I learned to cook from my grandmother. So every time I'm cooking for people, there's always that sense of like, my grandmother is there when I'm doing that, and it's a very fulfilling thing to do.
That's wonderful. So I didn't grow up cooking at all. I didn't even grow up eating very healthy food. But I now have a 7-year-old daughter, and I've been cooking with her since she was barely one. And it's been so beautiful. And it made me realize, why didn't I grow up cooking? Why don't all of us learn food and cooking like a subject in school? Because we all eat food. We all claim to be a foodie, and we like to try new recipes, but we don't really have that much of a connection with food. Someone else typically is making it for us. I feel very lucky that I was in a country where I couldn't easily hire a cook. So I was forced to cook, and I couldn't easily hire a nanny. So I was forced to have my daughter with me in the kitchen, and now she has fallen in love with cooking. And in a way, I'm glad that you had those twists and turns where you had an aunt who didn't cook very well and you said, I think I can do better than this, or I want to try what my friend brought to the school the other day, or your time in COVID where you had to become almost a grown up and cook for your 90 plus year old grandmother. So I hope more and more people enjoy and discover the love of cooking, like the way you and I have now. Wonderful. So tell us what brought you to Hyderabad. So we know now that food and cooking has been part of your childhood. But you said 4 years ago you moved to Hyderabad. What brought you to Hyderabad?
So I moved to Hyderabad for my master's. I did my master's in the University of Hyderabad. And after that, I moved out into the real world. And I think, yeah, just being inside the campus for 2 years, it felt really safe. I felt like I was in a bubble where it was a very tight knit community of like-minded people. But
Yeah.
when I moved away from the campus to my own apartment, and I started meeting people on a daily basis, it just changed everything, because it's never really the same, because sometimes people want to know me because how do I say it? Because I come from the Northeast and I'm that diversity quota or something like that, you know. And I become like a conversation piece.
Yeah.
That way, genuine connections could not happen because people could not see beyond like my features and the history that I have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a very deep, note that you're touching on, and you touched on how building a deep connection is hard if people are sort of staying at the surface level and more interested for very obvious reasons that you're seeing everyone is approaching you for. So tell me, what has helped you build deeper connections in a new city that you're not from? Has anything that you've done in the last 4 years felt like that's a step in the right direction to actually build meaningful connection with people?
Yeah, so for the longest time, ever since I moved out of university, I felt detached. I didn't feel like I belonged in this place. Uh, so that's when I started this supper club. I posted a story on Instagram, and I was just like, I really want to do this. I want to start a supper club. Does anyone want to join? A few people replied to my story, and I think 3 people who replied to the story showed up. But thankfully, I had friends who had come unannounced. So the house was not empty. It was full, it was warm. It was everything I had wanted it to be. You know, I initially I tried to curate an experience, but that night when it happened, I realized, like what I can do is cook the food and everything will take care by itself. So
Yeah, superb. So your first foray, first attempt at supper club was because you felt that there isn't really a deep connection happening with friends.
because I was lonely, like truth be told, I was very lonely. I wanted to meet people who felt the same way that I did about food, who wanted to explore like eating out like different kinds of food, because the kind of people around. Like people aren't really experimental with their food, I think, right here. So yeah, I wanted to meet people who would be open to maybe trying like different ingredients.
Yeah, something they've never had before.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give them a table where that was available.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that was your first attempt at it, and it had this mixed experience where you had 3 people who came, and then your friends came, and it felt like a full house and a warm house. What made you want to do it again and again and again? Tell us any stories that you've had in supper clubs that made you feel, I think I'm enjoying this. I think I want to do this again.
It's definitely the warmth,
Yeah.
the warmth of knowing someone, where they come from, the food that they eat, and all my dinners have a theme. The first one was homegrown comforts, where I asked people to bring food that reminded them of their home, of their childhood, and something that gave them comfort. And everyone, it was a potluck, and people didn't just show up with food. People showed up with stories, and I think that was that was a really warm experience, and I wanted people to experience the same things. You know, why are we just eating food on a plate and calling it a day? Like that's the best time of your life
Yeah.
in the day. You know,
Yeah.
eating food around the table or in a room, sharing food, sharing stories
Yeah.
about why you like the pasta, how do you like your pasta, for example, or how do you like what do you like your rice with. It's as simple as knowing someone likes their rice with just ghee and some pori.
Yeah.
And but then the story behind that is it warms my heart, and that just keeps me going. It's like my drug.
That's awesome. Yeah. You know, even I growing up, it, even even back then we had television, and I remember being stuffed with bites in my mouth, and the television's what I'm really eating is the content on the television. And now we see even more of that with like a iPad that's in front of a child, and the mother is so happy that the child is eating that second roti. But I get really disappointed when I see that, because what dinner looks like in our home is usually our daughter is involved in the cooking. Me, my husband, and our daughter are making the dinner. So it's not that magically food shows up on the table and she's suddenly discovering what's made. She's been involved in what should be made, and tasting it along the way and saying, let's add a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that. And then at the table we get a chance to keep everyone's screens away and talk about what your day was like and what happened at school. I've never actually been to a supper club, but I think it would be such fascinating stories, because everyone's coming from different walks of life and bringing different dishes, which, right, like you rightly said, they have a story behind them. Like, why do you like your rice with ghee and pori? I've never eaten it that way, and I want to know, what brought you to that. So I hope more and more people will take inspiration from this and use meal time to build more connection and more story times, really. We also, in the curriculum that we're building at Flavor Lab, we have a lesson plan for children on food stories. I want children to come into class and tell us their food stories and food memories. It could be a fruit they look forward to every year, that this mango season is about to start, or it could be a dish that their grandmom makes and they won't get anywhere else. Whatever it is that is a deep connection to food and is your story, it's beautiful to share that with other people. Super.
I feel like we're always looking for inspiration everywhere, but it's right there on our plates, the food that we eat. Like, that inspires me so much.
Yeah, yeah, that deserves a round of applause. I agree. Wonderful. I want to come back to Supper Club, but going to the fact that you moved to Hyderabad, you moved to a city that you haven't been to before, and you met new people, you had new experiences. What do you think about the food here? Hyderabadis are very like bossy, and I think particular about it.
Spicy.
Yeah, what I want to know.
Spicy. That's the word. That's the word for Hyderabadi food. And when I came to Hyderabad, I had like stomach ulcers, which is fairly better now. But man, I was assaulted by the spices of Hyderabad. And for the longest time, I stayed away from Hyderabadi biryani and, like, ate Bengali biryani. Don't hate me for that. But yeah, I think I fell in love with food from Hyderabad when I first started working. Because, I mean, campus food was disappointing.
Always
I'm
is.
not gonna judge Hyderabadi food based on my mess food. That's for sure. So yeah, I was introduced to Hyderabadi food during lunchtime at office. Like, it's so crazy, right? I was introduced to different kinds of food back home through lunch
Yeah.
in school and at work as well. I had a friend who would bring like different kinds of uh, homemade food, and that just changed my perspective on. That just changed my outlook on like Hyderabadi food. I just thought it was just like a lot of spices, a lot of heat, and all of that. But homemade food, it was different. It felt like I really enjoyed it. I think one word I would use to replace the spice would be comfort. Like, Hyderabadi food is really comforting, and Madhu was her name. Madhu was the colleague who would bring different kinds of food, and she would bring it for me as well. I would take one dosha from the dhaba to work, and I would eat that, and she would bring lunch for me, and she would share that with me, and I just fell in love with all the pacharis, and just trying all these food made me realize how similar the kind of similar ingredients that we have in Naga food and Telugu cuisine as well. For example, gongura was one ingredient I found out was like the common thread. Yeah, so the way Hyderabadis eat gongura is you use it fresh, right? But back home, we dry it up and then we use it like sour agent in like cooking meats or like uh, pork to be specific. Yeah.
That's
So
that's very interesting. I thought gongura was very local and only here and nowhere else in India. That's good to know. But it's a different form of gongura. You're
yeah,
drying
yeah.
it and using.
Same ingredient, same but different, right?
Exactly,
That
exactly. Yeah.
way.
Yeah, that's awesome that you didn't just experience Hyderabadi food when your colleague brought it. You experienced Hyderabadi warmth because she's
Okay.
sharing her lunch with you.
Yeah.
Not wanting to see you eat the same dosha every day. So I'm really happy and proud to hear you say that. I too don't enjoy the spicy food. I have to be honest. Anytime a restaurant claims that we're authentic Telugu cuisine. My husband's running to it, and I'm running away from it. But at my neighbor's home, who are local Telugus from here, the pacharis and the sabzis and the dals are just so deep, so comforting, like you said. I tend to think of that as real Telugu and Hyderabadi cuisine, not what we get most often, I think, at the restaurants and not the biryanis as well.
And on that note, I think I'm really what I'm most happiest about hosting supper clubs is that I get to be invited to other people's homes to eat food, like with their mums or dads, and it's really fun. Like the other day, someone who had come for supper invited me for lunch,
Yeah.
and I had to go all the way to Secunderabad, and I was like, oh my god, it's so far away. Like thank God I'm traveling without a visa. They're allowing me to do that and everything, but yeah, when I went home, she had made a lot of like, food that they normally eat at home.
Yeah.
And she was really apologetic. She was like, I'm sorry, I couldn't make you the meats and all of that. But then I'm like, you're a vegetarian, first of all. I'll eat everything that is in your home. And yeah, just sitting around that table and sharing that food with her is something I will be very grateful for, you know?
That's a beautiful story. In fact, I was just going to get to try to unpack some of these stories because I think we Hyderabadis are so lucky that you've chosen to bring your cuisine and your culture and very warmly share it with us in an immersive way where you're cooking with love. Um, and I think food is also a way to build community. So I wanted to ask you about these sorts of stories where you feel like offering the supper club has brought you community as well. It's not just that we've benefited so much from it, which we absolutely do benefit from because it's the sort of food that you're serving we wouldn't get anywhere else. We can't just walk up to a restaurant and get it. So we certainly have a privilege here. But I'd love to know your perspective and if that is the case, that the supper club has opened your doors and your world to other foods, like you said in this one case where someone invited you. In any of your potlucks or in any such invites, do you feel like you've stumbled upon a dish or a story that will really stay with you?
Hmm. Uh, I mean, there are a lot.
Yeah.
There are many,
Yeah,
but I think I would like to tell you a story.
Yeah.
So I remember people from the supper club, and I think just remembering how they are gives me some kind of joy. That's the first step to connecting with them. It gives me just of like whether I would like to pursue a friendship with them. Because friendship is a huge thing nowadays. You literally have to go up to someone and be like, I really admire this about you, and I want to be your friend. So all these dinners are, I don't know, I guess it's like a platform where I can choose my friends, you
Yeah.
could say. So one time, one particular incident is when I was hosting a collab dinner. It was called Delhi on my plate. We had food from Delhi, and so Hyderabadis have their own standard timing, right? If I say 6 p.m., people show up by 8:30, and they're just like that. I was being nice. So, but Medha, she's actually right here. She came. She came and she came exactly at 6 p.m. and she sat on that couch for 6 hours, six and a half, and I thought she didn't have a good time, but then she came back again and again and again, and I was very intrigued, and that just I think that made me really attracted to her, and that made me want to pursue a friendship with her, and I got to do that, and now she's here, and I guess it speaks for itself, right? When someone from Supper shows up to a talk to support you, I'm glad that happened.
I think that's lovely. I mean, in a city where you're new and it's so hard to build friendships and connections, it's, the click of a button saying follow or accept is now the definition of friendship, which isn't, we all know that's not really real friendship. It
Yeah.
is showing up again and again. It is,
Yeah.
you might have misread someone in the first time where you thought she didn't have a good time, but you see her come again, and that unpacks their story to your life and your story to their life. And now she's here to support you. So I think that's a beautiful example. I want to talk about thrifting now. I'm going to shift gears
Oh,
because
yeah.
at your supper club, you also have a thrift store. So I want to understand why you choose to thrift and what are some of the items that we might find in your thrift store.
So yeah, just a little explanation for everyone that's here. I have a shop inside my supper club at my home where I uh, display thrifted items from my friends' stores, from my own thrift stores as well. It's just a way to support homegrown businesses from Nagaland, give them like an offline platform at home in Hyderabad, and also to give people a chance to do a deep dive on thrifting and just destigmatize thrifting. I started thrifting ever since I was born, I would say, because it's such a huge part of our culture back home. It is, yeah. Thrifting is a huge part of our culture back home. It's it's uh, it's a mother's favorite thing to do. Keeping their children clothed in the best things possible at the best prices. And I just wanted to introduce that to people. So how I started thrifting is there's a long story and there's a short story. I'm gonna go with the short one. So I started thrifting in college. I wanted to do my masters in Hyderabad. So I decided, and no one in my family was willing to, fund that dream of mine. So I was like, why should I depend on anyone else? I'm gonna start an Instagram page. I'm gonna start selling my clothes, and I'm gonna make this money. I'm gonna go do whatever I want to do. And yeah, so thrifting was a tool for my liberation, you
That's
could say.
beautiful. So you started thrifting back home
I did.
and started saving money from selling your clothes
I did.
to be able to fund your masters
Yes.
in Hyderabad where you dreamed to be.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That is just
Because
absolutely
my
beautiful.
teacher would keep talking about the University of Hyderabad. She's an alumni from there. That's when I was like, oh my God, I want to go there too. And so I did.
Splendid. And then you've continued that habit because like you said, it's part of the DNA in
Yeah.
your culture and it's something that you do and your parents have done and now you're continuing to do. So Supper Club happened to just be a perfect occasion to normalize thrifting and to share that with the world.
To normalize thrifting as well, but also to bring the whole experience of home to Hyderabad. No household gathering back home is complete without one auntie trying to sell you one pajama from the second-hand market. There's always someone selling bed sheets, like jackets, hoodies, something. And on the other side, there's someone who's cooking in the kitchen. It's all a group activity. Whether you're a spectator, whether like a contributor, it happens together. And it happens the same way at home as well, right now in Hyderabad. When people come, I'm maybe in the kitchen and someone's there helping me out, someone's like just chilling in the hall, and someone's in the shop, like, just getting to know each other by the things that you pick out from the rack. That also tells so much about, how a person is.
Absolutely. By like experiencing an item that someone else has experienced before, you're sort of taking that story forward.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the items that we might see in your thrift store.
Um, I think I'll answer a different question.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I can source for you.
Okay.
So how it works is that people, how it used to work from ever since I started was people keep messaging our Instagram page, just asking us like, do you have this? Do you have that? I would like to find this. So that way, mm, I think that way everything is available for you. You just have to come to the store and just. So what happens is people come, they'll be like, oh my God, it's my friend's birthday and I want her to have this.
Yeah.
Can you find it for us? So that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Or if you have like, if you're looking for a different change of style, you can like, tell us, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, and we can help you curate an outfit for you. And
So you're choosing to spend your time trying to help someone else find the thing that they want for themselves or for a friend, and ideally a thing that has it's a pass down, it's a second hand. But you must have to then scout around and look
Yeah.
around.
yeah,
And so when someone sends you a message saying I'm looking for this, you decide to spend your time looking at that, helping them find that, and then get it to them.
yeah,
Beautiful. I think it's really great for me to see how you're choosing to spend your time. I think that's the word I'll stress on, because you're choosing to spend time in the real world. You're choosing to share your culture and cuisine and community and your values in a very immersive way. I have nothing against like a YouTube channel of recipes, but you've decided that's not where I'm going to share my culture through. You're not like filming yourself in the kitchen making a dish and now the world knows how to make a dish from your tribe. You're saying, no, I'm going to cook it and invite a bunch of strangers to my home and spend 4 or 5 hours with them, talking to them about this dish and about the ingredients in it. And I think that's very unique and rare today, because I see more and more people choosing to spend their time on screens,
Yeah.
on digital content, on like everything in 10 minutes. I don't have 6 hours. Talk to me about, why you're making these choices that is it because it's helping you build connection, and perhaps we're coming a full circle where your generation now is craving that connection and is finding it through offline experiences, or is it something else?
So you can't really taste anything through a screen.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And one could make like the most beautiful thing on Instagram, but that could just taste like shit. And I didn't want to be one of those people. I want to talk. I want to walk the talk. I want to make you taste the food that I make, and I want your reviews immediately.
Yeah.
And coming back to your question about like how people are embracing offline hangouts and all of that.
Yeah.
I think that's always been there. Ever since social media reels came to be, people are just like doom scrolling all the time, and just getting off of that doom scrolling spiral thing is such a huge task. And right now, I feel like people are just consciously deciding to
Disconnect.
disconnect and show up. And I think the supper clubs have come to Hyderabad at a time where people have, made that resolution. And I'm really glad that there are so many supper clubs around. There are like, um third spaces for people to, really hang out and connect without an agenda. Because otherwise, if you hang out anywhere, I feel like there's always that performance that's always happening, right? It may be unconscious as well, but that performance always like gets in the way between, genuine connection between people. And
Yeah, I think you touched on such a right note where you said that food cannot be tasted on a screen. Lots of people tell us also, why don't you do an online version of your food education curriculum? You can reach more children. And it's true, you can reach more children, but I strongly believe that food needs to be smelt, touched, and
yeah.
tasted. You cannot otherwise experience it.
Yeah. Like sometimes someone could be like, turn this off after 5 minutes. But like if you are offline, when you're in the kitchen, the things that you learn are unparalleled. You can tell when you're in the kitchen, as much as I guess both of us
Yeah.
are. I think you can tell like when something is burning just before it burns, right? You know it's gonna burn, but just by looking at the way the pressure cooker is drying up on top. So I think those are like things you can't really teach online.
100%. That's the muscle you build by cooking more and more, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm hoping to do with children, so that they start at a young age. And of course, children have a lot of fun when they're playing around with food, right? So hopefully they build that muscle. The other thing you touched on that I completely agree with is, you can always see a very nicely edited reel on Instagram. It's not necessarily going to turn out that way. I've tried making dishes from an Instagram reel, and it's not come out looking half like that, following all the instructions to the T. Which is why I love that you've decided to say, I will make it the way I would have for my grandmother. And you be the decider, and you tell me how it tastes to you. So I have one fun question for you. I want to know, what is one ingredient that your kitchen is never without? What do you never run out of?
Garlic and ginger. That's literally like the two things you'll always find in every Naga kitchen.
Yeah.
We don't, so Naga food does not use like, elaborate spices like coriander, seeds, jeera, and all of that. We don't have that in our cooking. It's very simple. It's ginger, garlic, tomatoes, and choice of protein. That can make you like such a yummy meal,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that is what I want to communicate to people, like food or cooking per se does not have to be complicated. You might just have like ginger garlic and some chicken. That'll make you the best chicken dish of your life. Like if you just listen to me.
You just listen to him.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us if there is any cooking experiences? Is that at all part of your supper club? So, if someone shows up to the supper club, do they get a chance to learn how you're making a dish so they can try to replicate it, or are they coming up and sort of the food is ready and you're serving it?
So I set the timing at 6 p.m. and people are allowed to show up when they want to show.
Okay.
But yeah, some people do come early and they ask if I can help. But yeah, I would like to tell you another story
Go ahead.
on that account. So basically, what happened was one supper, I I totally forgot that there was a vegetarian, and that guy came first. Satwik was his name. He came first, and I was in the kitchen chopping up some pork, and I was like, "Oh, this is what you're gonna eat tonight." And then he's like, I'm vegetarian, right? And I'm like, yeah. I was just saying, this is what we're gonna eat tonight. And then impromptu on the spot, I was like, I'm gonna make you a nice vegetarian dish right now, and we're gonna do it together. And that's what we did. We sat down, I had some ingredients, and I was like, okay, shit. In my head, I'm like, I'm making that menu in my head while I'm telling him something else. And then I was like, okay, let's do this. And we did. And he really enjoyed it. And he kept coming back.
Wow.
He keeps coming back. So that just, I was like, okay.
That's
Works.
wonderful. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do an impromptu, this is what I have in my kitchen and let's make it. But I do agree. I think for me as well, the one ingredient in my kitchen is never without is garlic. I think that's like a game changer. If there is no garlic,
Keeps the vampires away also.
keeps the vampires away as well. Added benefit. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't know if you have any questions for me, Jungshi. I've covered all of mine. Let me see.
I do have
So I'm
a,
throwing you under the bus. Do you have any questions for me?
I do have
Go
questions for
ahead.
you. Why don't you tell us about Flavor Labs?
Okay.
What you're doing with Flavor Labs, and how people who are interested can be a part of Flavor Labs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So I have been cooking with my daughter for the last 6.5 years, and she's now 7. So you can imagine her as a really little baby, and we're living in the US and don't have a cook or a nanny. So she's on the counter and mixing and mashing and smelling, and that led me to firstly observe by the time she was 3 or 4 that it's had a positive impact on her relationship with food. She doesn't ever sort of push a dish away and say that I'm never touching that. She's always willing to take a tasting amount, and now has a vocabulary of feedback she can give on food. So when I was hearing from my friends that I have a picky eater, on the other side I have this opposite of a picky eater, an adventurous foodie is what I like to call her. And it made me think, why didn't I grow up cooking and experiencing food in this way? Why don't all of us learn food in an immersive way? Why isn't it taught in schools? And while I was in the US, I had the privilege of visiting a couple of nonprofits that are doing food education in schools. You can imagine a kitchen at a school. Just like children go to a sports class, they go to this kitchen class. And they don't just learn cooking, they also learn about the ingredients, what food does to your body and what food does to the planet. There's a little kitchen garden outside. So they're growing the food. And it's part of their weekly curriculum. And that led to, one thing led to another, and it made me feel like food education should be something that every school in India, in the world has, and it was about time for us to move back anyway. And so I decided I can leave the tech career behind. It's been a year and a half now, and last Hyderabad Lit Fest, I actually did a workshop with children here. We made a rainbow smoothie at HLF. So in these workshops, children cook and they learn about food, like eating the rainbow. Why should we eat the rainbow? Because fruits and vegetables of different colors have different superpowers. Like Elsa has a superpower, or Superman has one. Green foods are good for immunity, and blue and purple foods are great for memory. So we sort of teach that to children in a lesson plan or a workshop. And we're building this curriculum and talking to schools in Hyderabad and Bangalore and trying to bring food in as a subject. And I don't miss for a single day. You've been a UX designer, right?
No, no, I'm a strategist.
Sorry, my mistake. I've been a UX researcher and I don't miss that past life for a single day. I can see the next 30 years of me doing food and cooking with children.
I agree with you. Like, if
Yeah.
I had to leave my marketing job today, gladly, I wouldn't look back at all.
What would you do if you could leave your marketing job?
I would do the third space.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If I could like leave my marketing job and did not have to worry about rent and daily groceries and all of that, I think I would host dinners for free. You know, I would maybe not every weekend, but like at least once a month. And that's where third space is going right now. Like the more we get sponsors or collaborators, I would like to. So I think this is something I would like to talk about. The supper club prices started at 1700, and that was great. That was going great. People were coming in and all of that. But then I realized, you know, the supper club scene right now has become so elitist.
Yeah.
It has always been elitist everywhere else, but you know, why should it be like that? You know, it's food. It's a simple thing as food, you know. And that's why I slashed my price to 999, so it can be accessible to as many people that want to experience a different cuisine, a different culture, and meet new people who they can actually like bond with and become friends. Like that has happened so far, and I'm really grateful for that. So I'll randomly see people, and I'm like, oh my God, weren't you like strangers last dinner or
they're
something?
friends.
And now they're like friends. Like Shobi, who is here today, came with Gayatri yesterday. I had a potluck, guys, last night, and Shobi is a guest who had come. He came with Gayatri, and both of them met at a third space event. And she was like, "Thank you so much for introducing me to Shobi. We're like best friends now." So just to see like connections being made, and not from a point of view of business or anything. You know, when you say connection right now, it's all like networking and business and this, but these are the connections I'm talking about, and these are the connections that the third space is here for.
Yeah, so true, and such a beautiful story. You know, when you say that connections elsewhere are very, I think, agenda driven. There's always an
Agenda-driven,
agenda. And
exactly.
versus if you're going out for this experience of a supper club, you really don't have much of an agenda. But I want to ask you, you know, I asked you if you could leave your marketing job, what would you do? And you said do the third space, supper clubs more often. Would you ever think of a restaurant? And if not, I want to know like how serving food in a restaurant by you in your mind might be different from continuing the home experience or the curated experience, even if it doesn't happen in a home environment.
I to answer that, I know how much I can say because it's part of my business plan.
Oh, wow.
But yes, I do want to open a restaurant
Okay.
someday, not right now. I would like to start with a cloud kitchen.
Okay.
I'm working on that right now. But most importantly, I think I want to do a community kitchen where, you know, people people come by whenever I'm home. So I don't work on Mondays and on Fridays. So I'm home on Mondays and Fridays, and what I want to do is start a community kitchen where the kitchen is running like, you know, throughout the day, and people come and they tell me what they want to eat, and I can make it for them, or actually teach them how to make the same things as well. So there are a bunch of things that I would like to do. A restaurant, I think, is the last thing I want to do.
It's in the list.
Yes, it's on the list. But a restaurant per se also would be something like dhabas back home. You know, back home we have like rice hotels where you can just go eat rice with like different curries you can choose from. So that kind of experience, I feel like Hyderabad is lacking. Everything in Hyderabad is really big. It's fancy, it's opulent, it's posh, but nothing is stripped down. And nothing is like, there's nothing for the common man, I feel, you know. Everything's a little overwhelming, intimidating. Conversations are such as well. So I just want a small space where I can make Naga food. Like that's the goal.
That is beautiful. And, thank you for thinking about how to make this food more accessible and even slashing your prices. And even when you picture this future restaurant, you're not trying to say this is going to be the most unique place and the most stylish and fancy place that you can come and eat this dish in. It's for everyone. It's the most homely and calm place. That's how I'm picturing it. So, for the audience here today, if they want to come to your supper club, where can they find out more about it?
So we are on Instagram. It's called A Third Space Project. You can find us there. And if you want to do a registration or if you want to do bookings or have queries, you will have to DM. I've chosen very consciously not to, automate any of these processes because one of the biggest learnings I had from my thrift store was that nothing beats like a
Human
real
connection,
conversation, right? So what the one learning that I got from my thrift store, which is called Shishi and Co. with a C, is that like I said, people message me saying like they want a gift for their thing, they want me to curate something. So you can't normally do that through email or like bots, whatever, right? So that I think is something I would like to continue with Third Space as well. Because otherwise, if you could go to a website or ticketing platform and you can just book a seat and come, that would defeat the whole purpose, right? I would like you to come message me, ask me your doubts, tell me like, I saw something, I would like to try this. Can you make this for me? Like, such are the conversations I would like to encourage, which is why like all the bookings happen through the DMs.
Wonderful. So, a third space project is the Instagram channel. You won't just see a date there and a booking link. You will want to message and fix a time and even a menu or at least suggestions on what you want to eat. But I'm very excited to try this out. And I want to thank you once again for sharing your culture, your cuisine in such a personalized and immersive way, not a very disconnected way, but a very invested way with the beautiful city of Hyderabad. So, thank you, Jungshi.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening.